Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I'm your host, as always, Chad Porto. Joining me is my glorious co-host, Marcus Green. Marcus, how the hell are you? I think we momentarily lost Mark. There you are.
All good, man. It's a Wednesday, but we're acting like it's Tuesday.
That's because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it really doesn't matter. It's the day that ends in Y, which means there's shenanigans afoot. Let's talk about some shenanigans. Val Venis to start. Great calls. a Val that I can finally get behind. Consensually. A Venus with a message. If you're not sure what's going on, let's go through arguably the funniest 3 days that I've seen in a long time. There is a court battle that is weeks away from happening that will put a Twitter user by the name of Hang 'em High against Sean Morley, former WWE wrestler Val Venis, who is known for being, I want to phrase this in a way so that there's no legality, a bigot, as well as, alt-right, just he's a flag-carrying member of the MAGA party, even though he's Canadian. He had his intellectual property, and I don't want to say jacked, because technically all someone did was register a trademark under Val Venis, his from wrestler name, which greatly upset Sean Morley, because Sean Morley isn't a fan of the message that's going on here. And it's become a thing now, to the point where multiple people are involved. Multiple journalists have gotten involved, and Sean has gone after them, for lack of a better term. It's become kind of this whole thing now. Sean Ross Sapp got heat from Sean Morley for getting involved, and now guys like Matt Coon, who I'm not sure who he is, but he, I think he does a wrestling show. He's involved now, and just so many people are coming for Sean Morley in ways that I can't even begin to imagine. Brass tacks of it all, Sean Morley believes that trans people are pedophiles, which is ironic because Sean Morley was temporarily banned from Twitter for violating their child sexual exploitation policy after posting a photo of Hunter Biden having sex with Malia Obama. I don't know if she was over 18 at the time, but it was a doctored photo. It's still, uncouth. So he got banned for that. Go figure. There's a new trend on social media of calling Trump Republicans weirdos for their weird obsession with a guy. Morley's no different in that regard. But basically, the WWE stopped trademarking Val Venis because they own the rights to the name. So then this individual opted to pick up the trademark. And Val Venis has basically lost his damn mind, which is among the more funnier things I've ever seen. Apparently, Val is, or Sean I should say, is trying to use a lot of legal terminology that doesn't actually work in his defense. And now he's being dragged by the entire wrestling community, save for whatever fan base he has left, for being a transphobe. And the thing that I need to say is, I'm not a licensed lawyer, though I do understand the law, at least as far as the law in the state of Ohio. Each state, each country has its own law. In the state of Ohio, as I'm sure it is nationally, if you have an abandoned trademark, which Val Venis is an abandoned trademark, it does not matter if you are using it without proper registration. Because the minute a not-for-profit picks up the trademark and starts using it, and picks it up legally and starts using it in its entirety, it does not matter if you've been using it for X amount of years, because you never went to get the trademark. Famously, Warren Beatty does official meet and greets as Dick Tracy to keep the rights to Dick Tracy from lapsing into this type of situation. So Val Venis now does not mean the wrestler that we all knew from the 90s. It now means VAL, Valued Allies of LBGTQ+. Venus, Vital Educational and Non-Judgmental Informational Services. That is what Val Venis now stands for. It is a queer community, and there's links for advocacy, the Trevor Project, support for the idea, useful links, quotes, and even a shop. And it's not for profit. And for the first time since 1998, when Val Venis introduced me to Jenna Jameson, I finally care about Val Venis. This is a wonderful thing. Marcus, this is among one of the funnier things I have ever seen happen, and it happened to such a schmuck stain of a human being. Say what you will about left and right politics and policies, I can tell you that when an uninhibited, abusive jackass gets some comeuppance, it's a wonderful day. How are you feeling about what's going on with good old Sean Morley?
Yeah, in case people listening didn't fully get what y'all was trying to say when you first started talking about it, to quote a Hall of Fame bald white guy, to talk about this very trash bald white guy. Sean Morley is basically a big old piece of trash. Yeah, it's hilarious. It's one of the greatest wrestling storylines we've gotten to witness, and it actually happened on wrestling Twitter, which is usually a cesspool of idiocy, to say the least. But yeah, it's hilarious. The first thing because I didn't get all the specific details or why it all transpired, but seeing what ended up becoming of everything, I'm just sitting there like, you would think a guy that so arrogantly, and not everybody's entitled to their opinion, but so arrogantly brazen in his wrong opinion all the time, would have trademarked his own damn name.
Right.
That's the funniest thing about this whole thing. That's really why he's pissed off. It's like, what's the classic Dave Chappelle line? Gotcha, bitch. That's what happened. That's what happened. You got caught slipping. Like you shown to be just like I said, a big old piece of trash. From every angle, everybody that's coming at him is in their right to do so, and because he's garbage. But the fact that you got caught slipping like this and you're trying to defend it, like, even without all the bigotry and the BS, you just got caught slipping, and you have to accept it. Even more so, it was brilliant did none, like you said, because under the guise of a non-profit, it's kind of like lock, stock, and barrel at that point.
Yeah.
So now you sitting up on Twitter Dinkelberging at a goddamn person who you don't know, you don't have a face or real name to, and just screaming to the ether. You can't do anything about it. And like you said, it couldn't have happened to a shittier guy that was more deserving of it. And hey man, it's one of the best things we've seen on wrestling Twitter in a long time. And the fact that fan, whoever they are, however old they are, had the wherewithal to flip that as fast as they did, kudos to them, man. It's a bright spot in a very dark realm that we oftentimes are witness to.
What I think is the cherry on top of this is another Sean got involved, allegedly. Hang 'em High, the Twitter account, tweeted out a vague, "You'll never guess who has our support," or who's supporting us, I should say. And he started retweeting gifs of X-Pac, Sean Waltman. Now, does that mean Sean Waltman's helping out and is in favor of all this? I don't know, but it's funny as hell to think about it. Sean Waltman was, up until he got sober, I don't know how long ago, maybe 10 years ago, was one of the biggest degenerates in the history of wrestling, and now he's like, yeah, Sean Moore, and I'm like, yeah, X-Pac! I still don't forgive you for your X Factor thing, though. And again, he hates that shit too, so what are you going to do? I do want to move one story up, though. I forgot to add it because it was kind of last second. I shouldn't say last second because it wasn't completely last second. Apparently, Shane McMahon and Tony Khan are having had a meeting this morning. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it took over wrestling Twitter specifically, but it was definitely trending. Still is. And the way it's like they was definitely trying to have a private meeting, and they got caught by a social media user trying to get something for clicks. And the way they both looking at the camera in the photo, it's the shot of two people getting caught screwing. It's the faces you make when you get caught screwing, but they're on the opposite sides of the two different sides of the table. It's hilarious. Could be straight up and down business on something else, but one would think, history saying that it's probably about wrestling. Wouldn't be the first guy from the E that popped up there. So
So
be a change.
I don't think this was one. Sugar. It wasn't me. I don't think this was accidental. Like, how do you walk into a closed door meeting with Tony Khan, take a photo, and then have a watermark on it? Like, this absolutely screams purposeful leak. You know what I mean? Secondly, this is going to sound very odd, but this is a paradigm shift. Not a stupid Dean Ambrose move name, but like an actual paradigm shift. This would be it'd be monumentous. I don't think there would be another moment I can think of in modern wrestling history where someone so entrenched with the core philosophy and business of a major wrestling company jumped over to another in a major way. It maybe you could have argued Jeff Jarrett had he not been years removed from his TNA time when he went back to WWE or when he went to AEW. But short of, I think it would be bigger than Bischoff going to Raw. I think it would be bigger than any, Vince McMahon insert wrestler who they, made amends with. I think it would be bigger than any free agent signing Tony Khan has ever made.
I gotta ask you real quick.
Go for it.
I mean, interrupt, but what does this rank in terms of bigger than Sting?
In terms of what it means for the company and for wrestling history, I think it's bigger than Hogan to WCW. I don't know if in terms of financial success it will be, but in terms of the grand scope of what this is, the son, the alleged heir apparent to the WWE brand joining their biggest rival. There might be something from the 70s or early 80s that is comparable when you talk about the territory systems and all that, because that's a very complicated, messy era of wrestling. So I don't know if there's a comparable territory era version of this. But Shane McMahon is, the son of Vince McMahon. He was, for a lot of reasons, or a lot of years, the guy he was, and I use this term very loosely because of the allegations against Vince McMahon. You never know. But Vince was grooming Shane to become the new face of the WWE. Somewhere along the way, though, in 2002, 2003, there were some issues. And Vince decided that Stephanie was his best alternative. And that's where he went. And eventually Shane left the company. Shane started a streaming platform that worked mostly in China and was quite profitable with it. And Shane, say what you will about Shane's booking, because he booked the Royal Rumble and everyone hated it. I think the reaction to Shane post Rumble was dramatically over enhanced and severely unnecessary. But Shane has always had a good business eye. Shane wanted to buy the UFC in 2001. He saw potential there. He saw value there, but Vince wanted nothing to do with it. Historically, Vince has been very bad at starting businesses. No business that Vince McMahon has ever started has succeeded. He's a bad businessman. His studio failed, his bodybuilding company failed, his football league failed twice, his Ico Pro, his performance enhancing workout powder failed. Shane has got a good knack for business, and bringing Shane in, whether as a talent or whether as a backstage guy, I think makes sense. I don't know what value he will add to it. That's something that I would only be able to tell you if I had the conversation with Shane. But just from what I know from him historically, it's a gigantic, monumental get, should it happen. Shane could add a lot of value and structure. He could bring some real rating pops as a character. And I think that the dynamics he would bring all together would be astronomical. And who knows about crossover potential? Maybe Shane pops back up in TNA once TNA pulls their head out of their ass and realizes that this WWE deal is bad for them. Because apparently Joe Hendry's working full-time at the... working out full-time, I should say, at the... PC. So,
It's
potential.
When you listed off all those things, I'm like, wow, that John Vince has conveniently a lot in common with a certain orange agent.
Yeah, a little bit.
That makes sense why they're so good, such good friends. But speaking of another piece of that other piece of trash coming off of the last one, what impact, how low of importance is elevated with this being Shane coming in because of what's going on with his dad?
I think it's significant. To what depth, though, I think we'll have to let time decide that. His father might be going to jail for the rest of his life. Shane might be called to testify for or against his father. We don't know. What I will say this, though, is that there does stand to be some significant backlash coming Tony Khan's way if he does get into bed with a McMahon. And who knows, maybe Stephanie's on her way too. How great would that be? But there's going to be an investigation into Vince. There's already one ongoing. And when a trial starts, there's going to be even further investigations. If there's any evidence to link Shane to any of these activities, which there's not, I'm just speaking in hyperbole. But if there is, and Tony Khan makes a deal with Shane, he's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to backpedal out of this one. Not this one. So I hope Tony Khan is doing his due diligence to know who Shane McMahon is as an individual and as a prospect and as a potential business partner, because it could be terrible if he doesn't vet this properly. Now, I don't think Shane has had any involvement. In fact, by all intents and purposes, it looks like Shane and Vince don't have a strong relationship anymore. And who knows why. But I think this is a signing that could be well worth the risk if you're willing to take it. I just don't know what Tony Khan's endgame with him would be like. Is it to fortify the backstage area? Is it to give Shane McMahon control of Ring of Honor in an actual way? Is it to have him as an on-screen character? I don't know. But what I will say is I love all the memes of it's just a structure. It's like a the SummerSlam 91 in England structure, and they circle the top and they have an arrow pointing down, and they're like, this is what I want Shane to do, because Shane is known for being a lunatic. He will throw himself off of anything and everything. So I appreciate all the memes. I think the Manchester United soccer stadium has this really large apparatus that goes 400 or 500 feet above the soccer stadium, and somebody circles that because that's where they're going to be at for All In.
If they do a feud between him and Darby, they literally gonna have to pull that kissy nurse out of My Hero into the real
Right? Would you be more inclined to watch AEW if Shane McMahon pops up?
Yeah, I've been actually funny you say that. I've been more inclined to watch more frequently lately because of certain things, like obviously Daniel's, uh, kind of final run, if you will, full time run, if you will. Um, Seeing what's potentially been going on with the old international thing. Obviously, everything swerved on, and like I said, even Hangman's become interested in that regard, and the RH stuff. So I've been kind of more inclined, um, ever so slightly in terms of catching highlights. I don't know if I've been catching full on shows from start to finish. I've been more so catching highlights, but I've been more inclined to watch lately because, not for nothing, with certain things, they do keep a good amount of buzz around it. Was even excited with certain stuff around the women, but obviously, 'cause I thought they might have bring Curry in, but she obviously made another decision. Um, but if nothing else, they keep certain things interesting, like the little stunt they pulled at Comic-Con. That was cool and whatnot. But yeah, they bring Shane in. It's definitely gonna create a bit of a shift, like you said. If Stephanie popped up, the internet would turn into Seth's theme song.
I think that would be the end of their marriage, truthfully, and more to the point, I think it would probably kill Triple H. No joke. I think the stress of it would be too much for his heart. Um, Triple H is not someone that I often think about positively, though. So, assuming his heart could take it and 70 did pop up on AEW television, I think that would be the funniest shit in the world. Like,
Yeah,
I don't care what else is going on. I would laugh.
and if she came out with Shane, Jesus Christ, if you wasn't already logged into Twitter, you wouldn't be able to that day. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I generally do believe that if Stephanie and Shane showed up in AEW, I don't think it would quote unquote break the internet, but wrestling Twitter would be a cesspool spiraling in on itself in a way that has never been seen since or again after.
You're
So
like, I know this is bulletproof glass, but somebody hit it with something really hard.
basically, all right. Let's talk about Billy Starks, young 19-year-old wrestler for the Ring of Honor brand. Uh, has been doing some things over there that people have been raving about. She has quite a little fan base over there. Not the biggest name currently, but she's 19. And Ring of Honor doesn't have the biggest fan base, though. Tony Khan's talking about possibly getting them a TV deal, but it may have to involve them getting rebranded. I don't know why we don't just make them the Friday or Saturday show. Either make Collision 2 hours or make Rampage a Ring of Honor show. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been calling for the longest, and watching it, I'm like, it needs to be Rampage. Because
Right.
oftentimes Rampage is just the leftovers of Dynamite.
I think what you do is you move Bryan Danielson over to Ring of Honor. I think you move Joe over to Ring of Honor, and you have them as your focal points the next year or two. Because while Danielson's winding down as a full-time wrestler, he's not going to retire permanently unless he has to. So you can still use him, on big shows. You can move a few other guys over to Ring of Honor and bolster them up, and boom, you're ready to go. Now, Billy Stark, for the longest time, has been aligned with Athena. I think she just eclipsed 600 days as Ring of Honor Women's Champion. But Billy Stark's in the news today for a very different reason. There's apparently I don't know his name. I think he went under the moniker King's Road. Which is a allegory to the old All Japan style pro wrestling.
Yeah.
I forget his name. I think it's like Matt or Mike or something to that effect. Did I search it on my phone? I think I might have. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so it's Kings Road Wrestling is the guy's name, and this is alleged, so I don't know how much of this is true. But apparently, somebody under that moniker or a moniker similar to that was accused of taking photos of women at a local indie show and posting them to their, I think, Instagram page, and like lewd photos without consent. Wrestling with Kindness tweeted out the IWC desperately needs a human resource department, and meanwhile, Twitter support might as well not even exist anymore. Twitter username David says, "What now? Something not airport conference room related?" Whatever that means. Wrestling with Kindness responds, "Creeper stuff, that's all too typical. A notable content creator from Insta was at shows filming gooner content of women wrestlers' backsides to post. Billy Starks was targeted and is obviously very young, beyond that being inappropriate in any scenario." So, this is an all too common practice for wrestlers, or I shouldn't say for wrestlers, this is all too common practice against wrestlers. Billy Starks is just sadly the next in line. Obviously, Sonya Deville has been stalked before. There's been numerous wrestlers who have been confronted at like 2 a.m. at an airport by people who are hounding them for autographs and shit. There seems to be this idea that because pro wrestling is where it is in the zeitgeist, it's not mainstream, but it's popular than not, that the individuals involved are treated better than porn stars, but far less respect than they deserve to be. And the people who cover it, and people who interact with them, and the people who watch it, and I shouldn't say everyone, because I certainly don't mean everyone, but there seems to be a larger segment of fans in wrestling that harass, stalk, demean, and they get very. I see the behavior patterns of people who don't have a lot going on, who hyper fixate on wrestling news stories, wrestling whatever, and they raise the stakes of this fictitious entity that we enjoy to the point of obsession. And we see it all too often. I think it's because of the fact that it's not as, viewed and protected the way that like we would like Olympic athletes, Hollywood movie stars, politicians, and the like. We don't put the same kind of onus and appreciation and desire to protect people in wrestling that we do in more high-profile sports. So a lot of this happens to be more and more repetitive than we wish it were. It's sad, it's unfortunate, but as long as these people feel empowered and emboldened to do so, they're going to keep doing it, which is why it's kind of like swatting away flies. Eventually another one's going to come around, but you just hope that you get a big enough reprieve between the next batch of flies that you have to take care of, that you can enjoy your life. It's unfortunate because these people, both as wrestlers, are just trying to enjoy their lives, and these hyper-fixated nutbags don't have anything better to do. And that's not like some kind of like, oh, they're just, basement-dwelling dweebs. If they were mentally healthy, they wouldn't be doing this. Like that's kind of just the sadness of it all.
Yeah, we talked about this numerous times, like this over attachment to so many different forms of entertainment in general. This raising these celebrities up to be godlike figures when they're clearly just human. They just do some extraordinary things or elevated things in the realms of talent, like I said, in entertainment or what have you. And like you said, it's interesting that you kind of compared it to porn star. I guess in a way, like an elevated way of which they view wrestlers as, I guess, higher than porn stars, which is interesting because it's also another performance art, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, they do treat them better in that regard, but not necessarily as specific with the level of reverence that they'll show for LeBron or other actual, what's considered literal, straight up and down on paper athletes. and it's bad because it feels like the sport itself has evolved, but the fans haven't, or certainly a subsect of the fans haven't, because and even referencing the porn thing again, like with that level of obsession, with that grossness, to your point about the basement dwelling virgins and dweebs, which they are unfortunately a very loud minority, if you will, in that regard. That's kind of why I think a lot of these chicks have seen it quite beneficial to do OnlyFans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's like they see it, like these girls got a bunch of pages dedicated to them. A lot of them have these feet pages and whatnot, have you. Um, I them very much post, selfies of themselves and with a more sexual tone to it, if you will, just showing off their bodies by their own consent. But yeah, it's this weird thing because you're benefiting the beast, but you're also feeding it and making it large at the same time. It's this weird thing, and getting followed through the airport, getting followed to their car. I know, that's happened to Bianca and a lot of others. That crazy, scary situation that happened with Sonya Deville, who I think was actually with Mandy at the time,
Mm-hmm.
when that situation went down. And just numerous other stuff, across, along the years and just on social media that's just insane, and it's hard to regulate it because these guys are constantly moving, they're constantly going from state to state, different towns or what have you. You don't know who's in these crowds. Um, we've seen run-ins in the ring, but that doesn't happen as often. But a lot of these folks are picking up these people itineraries and following them from town to town. It's just this weird thing that so it's crazy too because so much of it is fan interactive, but it's also very, very dangerous. So stuff like this is unfortunate. I wish there was some type of fun, I guess. Speaking of Jesse Ventura, kind of popping back up, some type of like organization or union or what have you, whatever you call it. You be better abreast to talk about it than me, but some type of thing where like you could have like a board or something that could address or go after these situations when they happen. So it wouldn't be a thing of like, oh, it happened and it got checked online, but this person is literally still physically in the ether. So if they didn't get what they were doing online, now it gets elevated and they try to do something in person and it ends up turning into a BS wrestling lifetime movie that nobody asked for.
And that's the sad reality. Jesse Ventura's fought hard for unions. He's a union guy. I don't know how a union would work in wrestling because there's different agencies, different groups, different promotions. It would be a very difficult situation to get in place, especially because you'd have to deal with TNA, you'd have to deal with WWE, you'd have to deal with AEW, you'd have to deal with the international properties of it all. It'd be very hard to do, but the idea of having some type of governing body that could help wrestlers with this situation and bar people from working in the industry would be a huge benefit. Absolutely. Because despite the issues surrounding the situation, despite the issues with Billy Starks right now, or the issues surrounding her, I should say, not the issues with. I don't foresee anything happening to the guy who posted these photos of Billy or any of the other wrestlers. I think he'll continue to do his circuit. I think he's up in the New Jersey area. I think he'll continue to do his circuit, and I think he'll continue to get away with it. Unless we get stronger laws, I don't see what else there is to do.
Yeah, some type of outside wrestlers court that's led exclusively by Mark Henry. Uh, that's a tracking system for these a-holes or situation where it's like, oh, they following you. We're gonna set like a mock event up so they can show up. Kind of because there was this thing online. I don't know if you saw it where I don't know if it was a group of dudes or something setting up these predators that was like coming to these places thinking they were gonna meet teenagers, and it was some like dudes that would like put them on camera and like beat their ass as they're leaving out the store or something. Like something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
have seen that, and those are rough. You don't want to end up on one of those videos because some of those dudes are unforgiving. Although maybe some guys deserve to be on that end. Like if
Yeah.
you're taking photos of women's backsides without consent, I'm just saying. Let's talk SummerSlam though. They're coming to town. I didn't consent to it, but yeah, here they are.
That's hilarious.
It's a 7-match card. It's going to start at 4:30 in the afternoon. It's going to be on for over 8 hours. This is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen. WWE is a petty little bitch, and they're doing this just to try to harm AEW's TV ratings. Not holding SummerSlam, but having a 4-hour or 3-hour pre-show. Fucking
But
stupid.
that time, that 4 o'clock thing wasn't a mock thing. It was
It's
Jesus
real.
Christ.
Yeah, yeah. At least as
The
of
whole
right now,
SummerSlam day.
right? We get 5 really mediocre matches per show tonight. Not tonight, but this Saturday we're getting 7. So like, that's cool, I guess. Most of them suck though. This is one of the worst booked cards I've ever seen in my life. Oh, it's gonna be bad. For the World Heavyweight title, we have Gunther versus Damian Priest. Let's talk about this one with a little bit more in depthness because you're a Damian Priest guy. You've been a fan of his since Ring of Honor, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I'm of the stance that the World Heavyweight title run that Priest has had has been bad. Every one of his big matches has involved a lot of botches. None of the matches really make him look better. And it's kind of all, and like it seems, and again, not literally, but it seems like every title match he has on pay-per-view is done for someone else's betterment in terms of a storyline.
Yeah.
Now he's facing Gunther, who's one of the best talkers, one of the biggest presence, one of the most, he has, when people are like, when you talk about aura, like Gunther has aura.
Yeah.
Gunther walks out and he captivates you. He's one of the best wrestlers in modern wrestling history. And he had one of the best title reigns in WWE history, bar none. There's no reason Gunther should lose this match. There's no reason Damian Priest should win this match. And I'm afraid that Gunther's going to lose because Triple H is a bad booker. Now, do you feel like Priest's title reign up until this point has gotten better? Do you think it's gotten worse? Do you think it's been bad? Do you think it's been good? What is your value or estimation and evaluation of Priest's title run so far?
I like Priest. I know what this means to him. I know that he's putting in the effort at least to be a quality champion. Um, but I just, to your point, he's not been put in good position to do so. Every like I said, there are times when we know that a match happened for a title, and the person that should win doesn't win because the champion or something dealing with in or around the match has a larger narrative that takes precedence over them being the guy at the time. So with Priest, we talked about it like he's playing like fifth fiddle on Raw as the main guy. Like there's the Punk stuff, which is present. We talk about on the mountain. He's not at the top of it, and he should be because he's the guy. Punk's at the top, then Drew, then Seth, now Gunther. And if we talking about just straight up and down Judgment Day business, he's below Rhea on that Raw. So, like, when you're playing, like, fifth fiddle to so many different narratives, and you're supposed to be the guy on top of having matches that aren't memorable, mostly because it's run-in that's catering to those narratives that you're playing, like, fifth fiddle to constantly. It's the bad gumbo all around. And to me, this feud with Gunther is the first time I'm seeing a spark because it's one of those situations where it's like he has an opponent that's pushing him into an area he should have been in from the start. More aggressive, not just coming out, talking about how quality of a champion you want to be and you're going to do things straight up and down. Just no talking all fists. And this back and forth pull apart that he's been doing with Gunther, to me, is the first time I've really been interested in him as a champion. I think somebody on your feed, or you retweeted something about somebody, I guess, compared like who's had the better reign, him or Cody. And it doesn't please me to say this, but I feel like Cody has had better entrances as champion than Priest has had matches as a champion, and it's just kind of no other way to cut it. And like I said, it really sucks because it's the first time I'm seeing a spark with this whole thing with Gunther, but it's mostly because of what Gunther's bringing out of him. And you don't want to start having a spark as a champion at a situation where it's like, okay, this is exactly when he should drop it. This is the worst time to be picking up momentum. So, but I again, it kind of reminds me of the Austin Aries thing. Not that we're championing anything with him these days, but when he first became TNA World Champion, it felt like he was playing like second fiddle to everything that was going on with the Aces and Eights at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't really have an opportunity to really capitalize off the momentum that he had been building up through the X Division up until that Bound for Glory, or Destination X, I should say, and carry that as a world champion. So, I think it's just a combination of things that I would say majority, it feels like to me, were kind of out of Priest's control. But I know you was, have a different take on him as a performer in general. But I know he's trying, so it's just a bad deal. But what you gonna do? What are you gonna do? He's the champion. He got to do what he can. So, but again, I'm 100% agreement with you. It should be Gunther taking that strap off. It's just Gunther holding all aces.
I think it should be noted, though, that while Damian Priest has had a bad title run, I think Cody has had a disappointing title run. We can sit and be like, oh, yeah, no, his matches with AJ were great. Yeah, they were fine, but they didn't really have any emotion. I didn't really think AJ had a shot. Your job as a promoter is to make me think that the guy challenging for the belt has a shot. If you're not doing that, then what's the point? Rounding out the card, we have Bayley versus Nia Jax for the Women's Championship. That'll be a slop fest, more than likely. Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley in Rhea's return match for the for the Women's World Championship. Morgan's never been a great wrestler, so I don't think we're going to get a lot of great match aspects out of this. I think it's going to be more story driven, but that'll be all right.
Yeah. Real quick, do you think Money in the Bank comes into play for the first women's match? And how much does Dominic play into the second women's match?
Yes, I do. I think Bayley retains, and I think what's-her-face gets involved and wins.
Strat,
yeah. I think I think Dominic's going to get involved. How he gets involved is going to be anyone's guess. If Dominic helps Liv, I think the Judgment Day is over. With a Priest loss and Rhea being betrayed, I don't know how you go forward with that. Unless it's with a refocusment and a new recruit. I do think Dominic will determine the champion. I just don't know which way they're going to go. We have the singles match for the Undisputed title. It's Cody versus Sikoa. Everyone's saying that Roman will return. I don't know that he will. I don't know that Roman's returning anytime soon. This is going to be a bad match. Cody hasn't been putting on the best matches. And Cody, he's 37, 38. Like, he's not young. He's not the same wrestler he was when he left the WWE. He's slowed down a little bit. That's just what happens. And Sikoa's not a good worker. So I don't know what the expectations are for this match, but I don't have many. Then we have Logan versus Elliot Knight. Logan's defended the belt twice in 250-odd days. His drink is under constant criticism, and WWE's constant promotion seems shilly and stupid. The sooner they end this relationship with Logan Paul, who's looking at potential lawsuits now for a variety of things, the sooner they end this partnership, the better. It had potential, but they haven't done anything with it. LA Knight needs this belt, and he needs to position himself as the guy to take on Cody sooner rather than later. So, in what should have been the first encounter of this rivalry, Braun Breaker will challenge Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title. Having Braun lose to Sami last month was stupid. And if Braun wins here, it'll be even more stupid. You can't have bad booking and then expect us to be like, oh no, that's fine. It was stupid then, and
Yeah,
it'll be stupid now. So,
yeah, yeah, real quick because the way that the narrative is being sold, and I dig it, but also I want to ask you because I think you could have booked it differently. But clearly, you would booked it differently. It's being Braun selling it as I lost the first time because I didn't take him seriously.
which makes him seem stupid.
If
Like,
that was a prevailing narrative and you had to book it a certain way, how would you have booked that to make that narrative believable now?
um, if we had to do it in a way where Braun faces him off with him last month and then gets the rematch, I would have Braun beat the hell out of him for 98 straight seconds, destroy him, bloody him, destroy him, make him puke, and then maybe get in the face of a referee and then have Sammy roll up Braun in a schoolboy and get a 3 count shocking win.
Nice.
Now, I wouldn't have booked it. I would have waited until SummerSlam. I would have had Braun squashed every single human being he's ever been in the ring with in under 30 seconds. I would have had Sammy had really good matches since winning the Intercontinental title, but then again, I also wouldn't have had Sammy lose or beat Gunther in the first place. I would have had somebody else, somebody who wasn't 40 years old, beat Gunther. So this whole situation is just untapped potential that was laid at the wayside and rotted out. Braun has to win, otherwise he's done. I don't know
Yeah.
how people take him seriously if he loses a second time to Sami Zayn.
Yeah, it's to me, I just think it's so many different narratives that play here, even with, like you said, these 7 matches. And it's kind of nice to know certain things you're not going to know how it's going to go. So at least there's that element of potential surprise in a good way,
Mm-hmm.
anyway. But I think we have to leave this pay-per-view. If nothing else happens, even if the Roman stuff was just heavily alluding to, or been heavily alluding to, they have to walk away crowning Gunther, Knight, and Breaker. They have to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like that has to be 3 takeaways. If the Dominic Rhea Liv thing doesn't necessarily set the world on fire, or you bring in another Samoan that looks like Roman but it's not really Roman. Even if both those things go off the rails, you have to let those guys come out of this thing as champion. It's literally what's best for business.
I think we're more likely to see Tonga than we are to see Roman Reigns.
Tall tongue is hilarious.
And that's not even a joke name. That's what they're really going to call him. Finally, we have CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. Seth Rollins is ruining this feud, which I'm not even surprised about. He ruins everything he's in. He's terrible. He's the most overrated wrestler in the company, not named Mike Mizanin. So I'm not surprised. This is make or break for Punk as a performer. If he gets hurt again in a high-profile match, I like the guy. I think he's entertaining as hell, and I love how butthurt so many fans are whenever he leaves the company and joins another one. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah,
But
it is.
if he hurts his bicep, tears a quad, hurts his neck, whatever it is, I'm going to be on the maybe it's time to retire
You,
bandwagon.
you know what's funny that you say that? I actually think he's actually been the most entertaining he's been to me since he's returned to wrestling in this role
I agree.
of non wrestling because he's one of the few people that gets to live in the totality of his legend in the
Mm-hmm.
moment, like all the good stuff, all the bad stuff. The reason why this has such flavor to it with Seth and Drew because they legitimately don't like him as a human. Um, so he's really been entertaining as this kind of like divisive boogeyman almost role that he's been playing. To me, and it's been hella entertaining. Like I said, I've never necessarily been deeply moved by him as a performer. I've appreciated him for what I think I appreciated him the most during that ECW run he had. Um, but yeah, I just think he's really been the most entertaining he's been to me lately with the way he's been doing Drew and popping up and just look like he's actually enjoying everything that's encompassing this WWE run with that. But yeah, like you said, Seth feels like he ruins everything. I was thinking about it, looking at it on Raw the other now. Like Seth probably don't even send news anymore. He sends um what I said, he sends rudes. Like instead of sending his dick, now he just like harasses people with his shitty fashion pictures. It's just rude. Like of course he came out with a damn referee blouse. And it's he's a walking troll. So I don't know necessarily know how that's gonna go, but I'm 100% with you that if Punk gets ended again, it's kind of got to be curtains. I feel the same way about Nikita Lyons. Looks great, a lot of potential there, but it's coming off like she's kind of injury prone, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it stops her momentum every time she comes back, to where she never really can pick up any. You kind of feel like that's where they want to go with her because she looks fantastic. She got good in ring work. She's a legitimate fighter. It'll be interesting one day, I guess, if we get her and Lola Vice in the ring with their potential skills, because Akita literally looks like she could kill somebody with her stuff. And judge about some of the stuff that Lola be posting, I was thinking about. I'm like, MMA for her should stand for like mixed martial ass,
Yeah, pretty much.
because she can't throw punches without immediately twerking out of the fact. But yeah, if Punk gets hurt again, I just you kind of got to call it. Cause what Punk is 41 at this point?
Oh, he's like 46.
Oh man, Jesus. Okay, I was trying to. I was, I guess, my subconscious trying to give him credit, but yeah, it's just not gonna be good. But hopefully that match has some great story with it as well. Um, but it's an interesting thing, like you said. It's gonna be a long one. This is one of their big shows, I think. Upcoming. Did they change Hell in a Cell to Bad Blood?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
Yeah. So, I guess the biggest thing we can be thankful for is that it is on a Saturday, you know,
Mm-hmm.
which I appreciate. So, we'll see how it goes.
Final thing before we call it a night. Bryan Danielson and Swerve will be at All In on September, like early September. I forget when. September 1st, 3rd, something like that. It's now going to be a retirement match for Bryan Danielson. Should he lose, he will retire. Um, which is now making everyone think he's going to win. Danielson's also said that 2024 is his last full time year in wrestling. Or he said this year, so it might be into 2025 a little bit. The bout is set for the 25th of August, not early September, late August. And we will obviously see how this plays out. Do you think the stipulation reveals one way or another that this is going to be Danielson's last match, or do you think this is going to be Swerve's last match as champion?
It's hard to call because as soon as you reveal that, because I'm got to go back and watch the whole AEW thing after the show. Um, Now it reeks of effery with the match. This is an instant classic on paper anyway, but with the potentiality for Brian actually career being over, there's just so much room now to overbook this unnecessarily, because you got guys like Jeff Jarrett who are rooting for Brian, who had a little interaction with him um, in a backstage interview, and then now you kind of got the spooks that's sitting there, that always sitting at Swerve's door now, being Hangman, and he doesn't want him to have him have any joy in life at all. Which, as we say, is 100% justified, and at least they're keeping consistent with that. So I don't know how this goes. You know, it's kind of hard to ever root against Brian. You want him to have all the best stuff. You definitely want to have him have a great final curtain call, if you will. But at the same time, Swerve has had such fantastic momentum. You don't want to take it off him. So it's like it's almost no good answers here, and it's gonna be interesting to see how they book this, because this could either go very, very right or very wrong.
Mm-hmm.
What are your take on?
I think we'll have to see. I think it's too
Yeah,
soon to call. Both, like, Swerve's been. The problem is Swerve needs to reset. He, people like him. He's charismatic, charming, great in the ring. Dude broke into a man's house and threatened an infant. Like, that's forever heel. He is the heel version of Ricky Steamboat. Like, there is no facedom for him. And I think they need to figure out a way to make him heel because otherwise this just looks bad. It just does. So I don't know if there's like a long-term plan to turn him heel, but I do know that fans are too in on him right now, and they need to not be. That's just kind of where my head is at. But then again, I don't know. Maybe they'll have something with Swerve and Hangman Page, where Page is the villain, but the justified villain, and Swerve is the hero, but the ill-begotten one. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Any final things you want to touch on before we go?
No, that's pretty much it. Did you catch the post? I guess Slammiversary Impact.
Not yet. I have to watch that tonight.
Gotcha.
I heard it was good
But,
though.
yeah, good stuff. Josh is playing the long middle finger game with the crowd and his explanation and everything. Rascal's an ace. I don't know what's coming up next for Jordan. Although we kind of talked about it, they may be alluding to some new momentum coming with Rosemary because she kind of seems like they did like a little vignette where she's kind of lost in her own void now. Then she's kind of back being solo, thank God. So she kind of has to find it again. Since it seems like she's no longer in touch with the shadows. So yeah, some interesting stuff coming up. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting in these upcoming tapings, seeing just how further this partnership goes. Because again, like we said, it's real easy to say everybody's eating when you're ignoring the crumbs on one plate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. So,
well, with that being said, we're going to call it a night. We're back next week for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. You can find Marcus on Twitter at ParadoxKid, ParadoxKid.
that's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TruePennyShow. That's on Twitter, True Penny Show on Twitter. Check them out there. You can find me on Twitter, Chad Nerdcorp, CHUD, NERDCORP, and on the Instagram at Chad Sweato at CHUDSPHOTOHUT. Be sure to check us out next Tuesday for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. For Mark Sheehan, I'm Chad Porto. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. And Marcus, take us home.
Good night.